Everybody in the room froze. The sharp sound of metal hitting the floor echoed over and over. A cold silence followed. Then, a terrible voice broke the silence. It said, "I thought I planned the perfect murder." The room was full of police officers, but no one was ready for what came next. The man in the center, with wide eyes and shaking hands, still had blood on him. His face looked pale, like he could not believe what he had done. Everyone looked at him, unsure if he was telling the truth or lying. At that moment, nobody knew what he meant by perfect. Nobody knew what had happened just moments before this. And most of all, no one knew that this moment would change the lives of so many innocent people forever. A few minutes earlier, the town of Maplewood was quiet. Kids were playing on the street. Neighbors were talking about simple things like the weather or the new bakery that would open next week. It was a calm place, full of warm smiles and friendly waves. Everyone knew each other. Everyone trusted each other. That was the kind of place where people leaned on one another when something was wrong. It was the kind of place where people helped strangers without being asked. Then something happened that no one expected. It started with a message, a text message on a phone that beeped in the middle of the night. The message was from someone nobody had seen before. It had one sentence: "You will pay for what you did." The phone belonged to a young woman named Emily Carter. She woke up in the dark when the message came in. The light from the phone made her eyes blink fast. Her heart beat loud. She did not know who sent the message, and she did not know what it meant. Emily was a gentle person. She liked helping others. She volunteered at the animal shelter after school. She said hello to everyone with a kind smile, even when she was tired or sad. Emily believed that the world got better when people were kind to one another. She said kindness was like a tiny seed. When you plant it and care for it, it grows into something big and strong. But that message made Emily afraid. She had never gotten a message like that before. She tried to ignore it at first, thinking it was a mistake. Maybe someone sent it to the wrong person. But then she got another message the next morning. And it was worse. It said, "I'm watching you." Emily felt her stomach tighten. She knew she had to tell someone. She told her big brother, Jake, right away. Jake was brave, but he was also calm. He looked at Emily with caring eyes. He put his hand on her shoulder and said, "We will figure this out together." That moment of kindness helped Emily feel a little stronger. Jake knew that fear could grow if you face it alone, but if you face it with someone who cared, fear would shrink. Jake went with Emily to the police station. They told Officer Hernandez everything, the messages, how Emily felt watched, how scared she was. Officer Hernandez was a good man. He didn't laugh or brush them off. He listened closely, his face serious, but kind. He promised them that the police would help and that Emily was safe with them now. For a little while, life seemed normal again. Emily went back to school. Jake went back to work at the hardware store. Officer Hernandez kept checking in with them. People in Maplewood talked less about the strange messages and more about the full fare coming in 2 weeks. But deep down, Emily still felt uneasy. Something didn't feel right. Then, one afternoon, a scream tore through the quiet streets. People turned toward the sound. It came from Maplewood Lane, where the old Wilson house stood. The house had been empty for years, but on that day, lights were on inside. Someone had been seen going in and out at odd hours, something that should have worried people sooner, but most folks assumed it was another neighbor's kid exploring. Emily and Jake ran toward the Wilson house. Neighbors followed. When they reached the front yard, they saw Officer Hernandez and other police officers already there. A crowd watched as an officer covered something with a white sheet. The air felt heavy. Everyone wondered what was under the sheet. Officer Hernandez approached the crowd. His face was grim. He spoke slowly, like he didn't want to worry anyone more than necessary. But his voice was firm. "We found something terrible inside," he said. "You all should go home now." People began to whisper. What did they find? Is someone hurt? Who lives there? But the old Wilson house had no residents. It was empty. That made the whole situation even more strange. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the messages. She kept thinking about the Wilson house. And she kept thinking about Officer Hernandez's eyes that looked like they had seen something no one should ever see. The next morning, the news spread. The police announced that a crime had taken place at the Wilson house. They said someone had been trying to hide something. Something very ugly and very scary. Everyone in town felt a chill. Emily felt it too. She wondered if the messages she got were connected. She wondered if her life was in danger. She wondered if the person who sent those messages was the same person involved in the terrible thing at the Wilson house. Later that day, the police held a press meeting. A crowd of reporters gathered. Cameras flashed. Questions were asked. Officer Hernandez stood at the front, looking serious. He explained that they believed a murder had happened. He said they were still gathering evidence. Then, someone shouted a question. "Do you have a suspect?" Officer Hernandez looked down for a moment. Then he looked up. His voice was steady, but something in his eyes made the reporters and everyone watching feel uneasy. He said, "We believe we know who might be responsible, and we are closing in on that person." Suddenly, someone in the crowd gasped. People turned to see who it was. Emily felt her breath catch in her throat. Standing behind everyone else, pale and trembling, was the person police were talking about, the person they believed was responsible for the terrible crime. It was someone no one expected. It was someone who had walked past them every day, someone who had smiled at them, someone who had never once shown anything but kindness. Before anyone could react, that person began yelling, "You have no idea what you are doing. You have no idea what I know." And just as the crowd leaned in, restless with fear and curiosity, the person suddenly bolted toward the street, knocking over cameras, pushing people aside. Officer Hernandez shouted, "Stop! Don't move!" But the figure ran into the open, and that was when the ground shook with a loud crash, a sound that no one in Maplewood would ever forget. The sound came from the street like thunder. Metal screamed. Glass exploded into the air. People shouted all at once. Someone cried. Someone else fell to their knees. For one long second, nobody moved because nobody understood what had just happened. A black pickup truck had slammed into a police car at the edge of the crowd. The suspect had run straight into traffic, not caring who got hurt. The truck spun sideways, smoke pouring from the tires. The police car was pushed hard into a street light. The light bent, sparks flying like tiny stars. Officer Hernandez was thrown to the ground. Emily screamed. Jake grabbed her arm and pulled her back. His heart was beating fast, but his hand stayed strong. "Stay with me," he said. "Don't look." But Emily had already seen too much. The suspect crawled out of the truck, bleeding from the head. His face was twisted, not with pain, but with anger. He looked at the crowd like they were nothing, like they were bugs. Police officers rushed toward him with their guns raised. "Don't move," one officer yelled. The man laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was sharp and ugly. "You're too late," he said. "I planned everything. The perfect murder." Those words froze Emily's blood. Before the officers could reach him, the man collapsed onto the street. Blood spread beneath him. Sirens filled the air. Paramedics ran in. People were pushed back. Someone covered Emily's eyes, but the words stayed in her head. The perfect murder. Officer Hernandez was helped up. His arm was hurt, but he waved away help. "Get him into custody," he ordered. "Now!" The suspect was taken away in an ambulance, still alive. The crowd slowly broke apart. People went home in silence. Maplewood did not feel safe anymore. The friendly town now felt broken, like a glass dropped on the floor. That night, Emily sat on her bed, hugging her knees. Jake sat beside her. Neither of them spoke for a long time. "Jake," Emily finally whispered, "what if he was talking about me?" Jake looked at her, surprised. "Why would you think that?" "The messages," she said. "The house." The way he looked at the crowd. Like he was proud. Jake frowned. He did not want to scare her, but he did not want to lie either. "We don't know yet," he said gently. "But whatever is going on, you are not alone." The next few days were quiet, but not peaceful. Police cars drove slowly through the streets. People locked their doors during the day. Parents walked their kids to school. Smiles were rare now. Officer Hernandez visited Emily and Jake at their home. His arm was in a sling, but his eyes were sharp. "We need to ask you a few questions," he said kindly. "About the messages." Emily showed him her phone. Officer Hernandez read the messages carefully. He nodded. You did the right thing telling us, he said. This helps. Is he the one who sent them? Emily asked. Officer Hernandez paused. We believe so, he said, but we are still investigating. He hasn't said much yet. Why? Emily asked. Why me? Officer Hernandez looked at her with sadness. Sometimes, he said, people hurt others not because of who they are, but because of who they think they are. That doesn't make it right, but it means the hurt is not your fault. Those words stayed with Emily. Life tried to return to normal. Emily went back to the animal shelter. She brushed dogs and fed cats. The animals did not know about fear or murder or perfect plans. They only knew kindness. Being there made Emily feel calm again. One afternoon, while she was cleaning a cage, her phone buzzed. Her heart stopped. She looked at the screen. A new message. You think this is over? Emily dropped the phone. Her hands shook. She felt cold all over. The suspect was in custody. He was supposed to be locked away. How could this happen? She ran outside and called Jake. Her voice broke as she spoke. Jake told her to stay where she was. He called Officer Hernandez right away. The police moved fast. They checked the phone records. They checked the jail. Officer Hernandez came back with bad news. The suspect did not send that message, he said. The phone it came from belongs to someone else. Emily felt like the ground was falling away beneath her. Someone else, she whispered. Yes, Officer Hernandez said. Which means this may not be over. That night, the town meeting hall was full. People needed answers. They needed comfort. Officer Hernandez stood at the front again. We believe there may be another person involved, he said. Someone helping. Someone watching. The room filled with gasps and angry voices. Fear spread like fire. Emily sat beside Jake, holding his hand tightly. She remembered what she always believed, that kindness mattered even when things were dark, especially when things were dark. After the meeting, an older woman named Mrs. Thompson came up to Emily. I heard about the messages, she said softly. If you ever feel scared, you can come to my house, day or night. Others joined in, offers of help, offers of rides, offers of company. The town was scared, but it was also coming together. Emily realized something important. Even when bad people tried to hurt others, they could not stop kindness from growing. Late that night, Emily sat by her window, looking out at the quiet street. For the first time in days, she felt a small bit of hope. Then she saw it. A shadow moved near the old Wilson house. A light flickered inside. Emily's phone buzzed one last time. I'm not done yet. And outside, the front door of the Wilson house slowly creaked open. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The old Wilson house stood dark most nights, like a giant sleeping animal. But now, a weak yellow light blinked behind one of the broken windows. The front door, which had been locked and taped by police, was open just a little. It moved back and forth with a slow creak, like it was breathing. Emily did not scream. She could not move. Her phone felt heavy in her hand. The last message glowed on the screen. I'm not done yet. Jake rushed into the room when he heard her sharp breath. Emily, what's wrong? She pointed toward the window. Jake followed her finger. His face went tight. He did not say anything at first. Then he grabbed his phone and whispered, Stay here. Don't move. But Emily did not want to stay alone. She followed him to the hallway, her heart pounding like a drum. Jake was already calling Officer Hernandez. There's someone at the Wilson house, Jake said. Right now. Lights on. Within minutes, police cars filled the street again. Red and blue lights flashed across the houses. Neighbors came out in robes and pajamas, fear and worry on their faces. Officer Hernandez told everyone to stay back. Emily watched from behind police cars. Officers moved toward the house slowly. Every step felt heavy. The door creaked wider as if pushed by the wind, or by something else. Police! Officer Hernandez shouted. If anyone is inside, come out now. No answer. The officers went in. The waiting felt worse than the fear. Minutes passed like hours. Emily hugged herself, trying to breathe. She remembered what Officer Hernandez had said before, that fear grows when you face it alone. She looked around. Jake was there. Mrs. Thompson was there. Neighbors stood close together. That helped. Then the officers came back out. There's no one inside, Officer Hernandez said. But someone was here recently. They found fresh footprints, a phone charger plugged into the wall, and something else written on the dusty floor with a finger. Perfect plans take time. The words made Emily feel sick. The next day, the police worked nonstop. They learned that the suspect from before had a younger brother named Daniel Brooks. Daniel had moved away years ago, but recently returned to town. Quiet, polite, helpful, the kind of person nobody worried about. Emily's heart sank when she heard the name. She knew Daniel. He volunteered at the animal shelter too. He was always gentle with the dogs, always patient. He smiled softly and spoke kindly. He once told Emily, animals understand kindness better than people. Emily had believed him. Officer Hernandez asked Emily to tell him everything she knew about Daniel. She did, her voice shaking. She felt guilty, like she was betraying someone, but she also knew the truth mattered. Kindness does not mean ignoring danger, Officer Hernandez said gently. Sometimes a kind thing is to speak up. That helped a little. The police searched for Daniel, but he was gone. His apartment was empty. His phone was turned off. It felt like he had planned this too. Days passed. The town lived on edge. Emily tried to keep living her life. She helped at the shelter. She smiled at people who needed it. She reminded herself that fear should not win. One evening, Emily stayed late at the shelter to help a scared dog named Buddy. Buddy shook whenever there was a loud sound. Emily sat with him on the floor, whispering soft words, showing him he was safe. That was when she heard footsteps. Slow, careful. Hello, Emily, a voice said softly. She froze. Daniel stood at the doorway. He looked calm, clean, normal, like nothing was wrong. You shouldn't be here, Emily said, standing up slowly. Her heart felt like it might burst. Daniel smiled sadly. I didn't want it to be like this, he said, but my brother trusted me, and I won't let his plan fail. Emily backed away, her hands shaking. People are worried about you, she said. You don't have to do this. Daniel's smile faded. You don't understand, he said. This was supposed to be perfect. Suddenly, Buddy barked loudly, breaking the silence. Daniel's eyes snapped toward the sound, and outside, police sirens began to wail, getting closer and closer. The sirens grew louder, slicing through the quiet night like sharp knives. Red and blue lights flashed through the shelter windows, bouncing off the walls. Buddy barked again, louder this time, pulling hard at his leash. Daniel's calm face cracked. Did you call them? He asked Emily, his voice low and tight. Emily shook her head. She was shaking all over, but she forced herself to speak slowly. No, I didn't, she said, but they're coming anyway. You don't have to run. You can stop this now. For a moment, Daniel just stood there. His eyes moved from Emily to Buddy, then to the window. The sirens were close now, very close. I never wanted to hurt you, Daniel said quietly. You were kind to my brother when no one else was. That mattered to him. Emily swallowed. Then honor that, she said. Kindness isn't hurting people. It's choosing to stop. Daniel looked confused, like he was fighting with himself. His hands trembled. You don't know what he went through, he said. People laughed at him. They ignored him. He planned everything so carefully. He wanted to be seen. And now he is, Emily said softly. But this doesn't bring him peace. And it won't bring you peace either. The sirens stopped outside. Police voices shouted commands. Daniel Brooks, come out with your hands up. Buddy growled, standing between Emily and Daniel. Daniel took a step back. Then another. I can't go to jail, he said. I can't. He turned and ran toward the back door of the shelter. Daniel, wait! Emily shouted, but he was already gone. Police officers rushed in moments later. Officer Hernandez ran straight to Emily. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head, tears finally spilling down her face. He was here, she said. Daniel. He ran out the back. The police moved fast. Officers spread out, searching the nearby streets and woods. Helicopter lights swept over the area. The town felt like it was holding its breath. Emily sat on the shelter steps with a blanket around her shoulders. Mrs. Thompson arrived and hugged her tightly. Jake stood close, his face pale but relieved she was safe. "You were brave," Jake said quietly. Emily didn't feel brave. She felt tired and sad. Sad that someone who once seemed kind had chosen such a dark path. Hours passed. Then Officer Hernandez returned. "We found him," he said. Emily's heart jumped. "Is he?" "He's alive," Officer Hernandez said. "He tried to hide near the river. He gave up." Emily let out a long breath she didn't realize she was holding. Daniel was taken into custody. The town slowly began to breathe again. News spread. People hugged each other. Some cried. Some prayed. Fear loosened its grip just a little. Days later, the police shared more details. Daniel had helped his brother after the murder. He believed helping would fix things. He believed finishing the plan would give his brother meaning. But plans built on harm always fall apart. Emily returned to school. Life felt different now. Quieter, heavier, but also clearer. She understood that kindness was not just being nice. Sometimes kindness meant standing up, speaking out, protecting others. One afternoon, Emily received a letter. It was from Daniel. He wrote that he was sorry. He wrote that Emily's words at the shelter stayed with him. He wrote that for the first time, he was starting to understand that love does not mean helping someone do wrong. Emily folded the letter carefully. She did not excuse what he had done, but she felt hope that change was possible. That night, as she walked home, the air felt calm again. The streetlights glowed softly. Maplewood felt like itself. Then Emily noticed something on the sidewalk ahead. A small object. She stepped closer. It was a phone. Her phone. The one she had dropped at the shelter. The screen lit up. A new message appeared. "You think the plan ended with him?" Emily's heart sank as she realized something terrible. Someone else knew the plan. Emily stayed at the phone on the sidewalk. Her name was still scratched on the back of the case. There was no doubt. It was hers. But she had not brought it with her. She had left it at the shelter. Or at least, she thought she had. Her hands felt cold as she picked it up. "You think the plan ended with him?" The words burned in her mind. Her first thought was Daniel. But Daniel was in jail. He could not have done this. The message came from a different number. A number she had never seen before. Emily did not scream. She did not run. She took a slow breath and did the kindest thing she could think of for herself and for everyone else. She called Officer Hernandez. Within minutes, police cars arrived again, but this time Emily was not frozen with fear. She told Officer Hernandez everything. The phone, the message, the feeling that someone else was still watching. Officer Hernandez nodded slowly. "You did the right thing," he said. "Again." The police traced the message. It led them somewhere unexpected. Not to a stranger. Not to a criminal hiding in the dark. It led them to the truth. The plan was never just one person. Daniel and his brother were not alone. They had been part of an online group, people who talked about anger, revenge, and feeling invisible. Most of them only talked. But talk can still be dangerous when no one speaks against it. One member of that group had been watching everything, sending messages, trying to keep fear alive. But fear needs silence to grow, and Emily had refused to stay silent. The police arrested the last person involved a few days later. No chase, no crash, just the truth coming into the light. The plan was over, not because it was perfect, but because it failed. Maplewood slowly healed. The Wilson house was taken down. In its place, the town built a small park. Trees were planted. A bench was added. A plaque read, "Kindness is stronger than fear." Emily kept helping at the animal shelter. Buddy was adopted by a young boy who needed a friend just as much as Buddy did. Emily smiled when she saw them together. She still remembered everything that happened, but it no longer controlled her. She learned something important. Kindness does not mean being weak. Empathy does not mean staying quiet. And courage does not mean never being afraid. It means choosing to do the right thing anyway. Sometimes, the most powerful way to stop something terrible is simply to care about others enough to speak up. And that choice can change everything. If this story kept you listening and made you think, show your support by liking, sharing, and following for the next story. Your support helps keep these stories alive.